We are here today with Rhonda Deschner. She lives in Fischer, Texas, where she has Tierra Prometida Alpaca Ranch. I just love it, so many alpacas. We're so glad to be here. You have beautiful alpacas.
We're glad to have you.
And a ton of them. I didn't know you had so many. Very nice. Well, let's walk around and see the other corral, I guess, where you have them.
It's time to hit the road and discover Texas with Annie Studebaker. Get ready to travel deep into the heart of the Lone Star State, meeting friendly folks and exploring fascinating places. Experience a way of life like nowhere else in the world. As we uncover the rich history and culture of Texas, discover adventure, discover excitement, discover Texas with Annie Studebaker.
We're here in Fischer, Texas, close to Wimberley, and we're here with Rhonda Deschner, and she is the owner of Tierra Prometida Alpaca Ranch. I'm so excited! So many beautiful alpacas. How long have you had this ranch?
For about 20 years. We started raising alpacas in 1997 when Ethan, my youngest son, was 4 months old, and unbelievably, he's 20 now. So that's how it's easy to keep track of how long we've been doing this.
That's too cute. I have an Ethan too, but he's 11.
Oh, really?
So how did you get started having an alpaca ranch?
Well, because I have a crazy husband. We bought this property in 1994. Soon after we'd actually moved to San Marcos, and we were driving down this property, and my husband Kern's dad was a geologist, and they were from Corpus Christi, and they used to vacation in Wimberley, and they would stop at the rest stop up there, and his dad would talk about the geologic formations and everything that were around here. There's all kinds of fossils. Yes. And so when we were driving that day, this piece of property was for sale. And so Kern had to have it. And so we bought this piece of property that's about 120 acres. And it was ag exempt, and we wanted to maintain that exemption. And so we looked at lots of different livestock opportunities. And one day, you know, Kern kept bringing ideas to me. Cows had horns, goats were smelly, you know. And I was pregnant with Ethan, and I was like, you know, I don't know. He said, well, what about alpacas? And I'm like, what's an alpaca? And so, you know, we did some research about it and went to the National Alpaca Show in Pueblo, Colorado, and met some people there, and I realized that it was something that we could do. So we bought our first animals. And we started out with 3 gelding males.
Geldings?
And they survived just fine. We started out with just a little loafing shed over there, a couple of fences, and they did well. And so we bought our first females from Barbara and Ernie Kellogg, Double O Good Alpacas over in Virginia. The first females we bought were actually weanling females. And they were 6 months old, and I realized if we were going to do this as a business, I needed to buy some bred females. And so then we bought 4 bred females, and the girls we bought at the time were gray and black, and as time went on, it's gotten much lighter. And so as you can see, a lot of my herd is light and white. The darkest we have is a dark brown, and we've got a couple of gray females that my daughter owns. We now have about 126 alpacas.
How nice. And you separate them, you have different groups, I see.
Right, and generally they're I keep the boys on the other side of the ranch, the mature boys, because that way they don't fight as much, because when they see the girls, they fight, they show off. That's right.
How old do they have to be when they're weaned?
Generally, we will wean them when they're 6 months to 8 months, depending on the weather, because if it's a super hot time period, because a lot of our babies are born in the winter, and so they get to be about 6 months in the summer. Sometimes we'll leave them with their moms longer. So, I mean, as you can see, they all have ear tags, and that's more for us. So when Jenny, my ranch manager, and I are out of town, say we're at a show or something like that, we, you know, if somebody gets sick or they have a baby, whoever's ranch sitting for us can say not
the history record. They know exactly.
They know. They can say who it is.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, this one is a nosy one over
yes,
here. Adorable.
This is Irene.
Oh my goodness, look at her. Irene, huh?
Yeah, and she's actually the little girl that you saw earlier.
Yes.
Harriet is her daughter.
The little beige one running around. Oh, how precious. Yeah. Do they normally, if they're white, they normally have white?
Well, white
creels?
Is dominant, and so some of these white animals have color in their...
Let me see if I do this when I get closer.
They probably, she'll come check you out. Maybe I can get smaller too. But they will sometimes throw color. This girl, Elladora, was bred to a brown male one time because she had had a beige baby. And so I figured she could throw color, and I bred her to a brown male and got a pinto. So
that is neat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not desirable for a fiber industry, but nice if you just have some pets or if you're a hand spinner, because then you get 3 colors of fleece from that, from one animal.
So do you sell fleece?
We do, yeah. We sell fleece.
And yarn? No.
We do. Well, we have roving, we've got yarn, and we are in the future going to be selling some product out of our farm store when we move out of it.
How nice.
Hold on to your hat. We'll be right back.
How resistant are they to cold weather, freezing weather? What do you do?
They do.
They're from the Andes.
They're from the Andes, and they're very adaptable. But the Andes are basically high mountain desert, and so it's usually really dry there. And so in Peru, when they get heavy snowstorms that cover all the grass, they don't have the luxury of being able to feed hay and feed. They will lose thousands of babies and alpacas when they have a really bad winter.
Did you ever buy one directly from Peru?
The importation closed down in '98.
I didn't know that.
You know, originally a lot of the animals were imported from Peru and Chile and Bolivia.
Right.
They were brought in, and then in '98 the Alpaca Owners and Breeders Association felt like there was enough genetic diversity in the United States that they would close down the importation. And
we have a friendly one.
Yeah, he's checking you out.
I love it. I'm not even going to look at him. I'm going to go away.
But so I don't think any of the ones we have, I think all of our original imports have passed on.
Well, I knew you had alpacas. I had no idea you had over 100 of them. This is amazing, amazing. Wow, tell me a little bit about your farm.
Well, when we first started, there was nothing down here. We brought the electricity in, we've drilled some wells. There are 4 wells down here.
A friendly one.
One on this side, and then one on that side, and then 2 for the houses. We've built the fencing. We mostly have loafing sheds for the animals, as you can see, which are open. It provides shade. The animals mostly around here we need to keep cool. So they have fans. We make sure they have plenty of fresh, cool water in the summertime. And on really hot days, we'll water their bellies to try and help keep them cool, especially the pregnant females. So, hi there.
Oh, so there's a lot involved. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
They generally like to eat, you know, they graze. They're modified ruminants, and so they have like compartmental stomachs. And so we try to grow grass here. We, you know, being in the Texas Hill Country, there's a lot of rocks. We're on a big bed of limestone.
That's my hair.
That's right. I know he may pull it.
He did a little bit, but he's just being friendly.
Yeah,
oh
and when they
God.
put their tail up like that, that's a sign of submission. So he's being submissive.
Oh, how nice. You like me. Oh my goodness.
And generally speaking, the animals are curious but cautious, which is why a lot of them are just kind of looking at us, but they kind of keep their distance. They tend to have, you know, they're interested, but if you reach out to grab them, a lot of times they'll run away.
No, this
So,
one's pretty friendly.
I know he is. And this little guy here his name is Warrior of Legend. He is a really nice little boy. So,
This one.
mm-hmm. And when you're looking at the animals and looking for signs of, you know, quality of the fleece, what you want is something that's going to be fine and dense, produce a good staple length, but most of all be consistent in color, consistent in micron, the size of each individual fiber, because that's going to make a better end product.
Consistent in color.
Consistent in color.
What if it's pinto or?
Well, then you don't have that consistency, and so a pinto would be good for like a hand spinner or somebody, you know, who's using a fleece individually instead of pooling it and trying to make a product that's a consistent color. And I like animals that are pretty. You know, they're pretty animals, and so I want to breed for animals that are conformationally correct, that have a good strong body shape and style, that have good bites, have good straight backs, and that have really nice fleeces. And as you can see, the boys play rough. They will neck wrestle. Their necks are really strong. All three of these are boys. They do this practice fighting. When, you know, we have herd sires that are valuable, we make sure that they aren't in a big group of boys so they don't fight, because they can castrate each other. And we don't want that to happen.
I read that.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Wow.
And they're pregnant for an average of 337 days. Generally,
That's like 11 months.
yeah, and generally in the fall, they may deliver early and the babies are still full term. And in the spring, a lot of times they'll go a full year. And so,
so when
you scared me.
You weren't prepared for that.
I wasn't.
Hold on to your hat. We'll be right back.
Other than, you know, trimming toenails and checking them for worms, they don't require a whole lot of care. We weigh them periodically to make sure that they're in good condition, make sure we put our hands on them, because when they're in full fleece, sometimes it's hard to tell if they're getting thin. And by putting your hand on them, you can feel if they're getting bony, and you can score them and give them a body score. That way, know if they're getting too fat, because fat alpacas aren't healthy either. And
well, what do you feed them?
we feed them a combination of things. Chaff hay that we get from Del City, Texas.
And what is that?
It's a fermented alfalfa product that is kind of wet, and it comes in these plastic bags. It stays good for a couple of years unopened. It gives them a lot of the, it's almost like feed, it's a living feed. It's like eating yogurt sort of for alpacas. And then we feed them crumble feed mixed in with that to make sure they get the vitamins.
Molasses and all that?
Yeah, it's got oats in it and stuff to boost up the calories for the nursing moms and growing animals. For the full-grown boys and the girls that are just gestating in the early part of their pregnancy, they don't need as much food. We don't want them to get fat, and so they get the chaff hay with just a little bit of the crumble and some vitamins. And they get free choice hay. We bring in orchard grass hay from Colorado because our animals are spoiled.
How often do you have to clip their?
Every couple of months. The boys over on the hills, because the hills are so rocky, they tend to wear their toenails down, and so we can go several months without trimming their toenails. But I like looking at their feet and trimming their toenails every 2 to 3 months just to make sure that they don't have any injuries on their feet and they don't have any infections or anything like that. Most of these fleeces will get sold to the Alpaca Coalition of America, and they find buyers for the alpaca fleece and people who are actually using it for specific projects, and they will pay you for high quality skirted fleeces. You have to put a little time in and make sure that some of the vegetable matter is out and that the belly hair is not in there, and then you'll get paid for your fleece.
And can you just store it in plastic?
You can, but you want it to be, you know, it needs to be in a dry, cool place. What I do with the belly and leg hair, instead of selling that, I have it processed at Ingrid's Hembrew and Rugs, and have it processed into rugs that I can sell or use in my house.
Interesting. Let's go check out the males.
Okay.
These are the boys.
These are some of the boys. The other boys are way down there. And these girls are visiting girls. They're here to be bred. And then these are some of our big herd sires here.
Oh,
but usually this is charisma.
Yeah. So thick with fleece.
This is where we did a skin biopsy.
Oh, so they took the whole.
Well, what we did is we shaved this down to the skin and then take a 1 centimeter little plug.
Yes.
But these guys are boys that we're using for breeding, and so we've brought them up closer. They're in a smaller group, that way they're not fighting.
So where's the honeymoon suite?
Well, what we usually do is do the breedings up by the barn, and we'll behavior test the females. And what that involves is bringing them, you know, one at a time into like a 10 by 10 pen.
With a male.
And bringing a male in and seeing how they react to the male. If they spit and run and kick, they either don't have a mature follicle or they're pregnant. And because when they're producing progesterone, they, you know, think they're pregnant, and so they'll spit off the male. And if they're receptive and they have a mature follicle and they're ready to breed and they can cycle every 2 weeks, they'll just cush and lay down for the male. But these guys have some really nice fleeces, and so when you're choosing a breeding male and picking a male that you may put over several females, you want to pick a male that has a lot of high quality attributes that you want to spread over a lot of animals. The same if you're picking a female to be a donor for embryo transfer. You want her to be like a stud male, and so, you know, and have attributes that are good enough to spread across your herd. And these guys either have density or consistency of their fleece. Their body shape and style has to be good. You don't want a male who has a bad bite. You don't want a male who has a lot of guard hair because that ends up being really prickly, and so the fiber that you're going to produce isn't going to be as good. So, and I think for me, not everybody does skin biopsies, but for me it gives me another useful piece of information so I can make better breeding decisions.
Well, that's great.
Alpacas come in different sizes, and they may have a small body frame, they may have a medium body frame, or a larger body frame. When I'm picking breedings, if I have a rangy female, one that's a little longer legged and a, you know, more stretched out, that has more of a body shape like his, I'll breed her to a male who's more compact and typey, like Jubilee or Charisma. And Elite Legend has perfect conformation. I mean, he's wonderful. But if I breed him to a female who's kind of lanky, I'm going to get a lanky baby. And so I'm better off using Jubilee for those those animals.
Tell me about this tours. You do school tours? What kind
We
of tours?
do. If people will call ahead and make reservations, we're glad to do tours for schools. We had Wimberley High School's Gifted and Talented program out here, and another 4-H program from New Braunfels, a group of kindergartners. And so we're always glad to be able to show off the alpacas and just let people get their hands on them and see what they're like. So they're welcome to come out. But they need to call first, just to make sure that we're here.
But you have a website, and what's your website?
It is alpacausa.com.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Rhonda has taught me a great deal about alpacas. These cute and cuddly creatures are easy to care for, and the fiber they produce has unique qualities. It's very soft, strong, and warm. I never thought of getting up close and personal with them. They are so friendly. If you're ever in Texas Hill Country, be sure to stop by and visit Rhonda at Tierra Prometida Alpaca Ranch, where you'll discover the experience of a lifetime. This is Annie Studebaker. Until next time.